And a very good afternoon and welcome to the St. Paul Civic Center. We're live. March Madness is underway. A lot of you know about high school hockey, which gets underway in just about a week, basketball later this month. But of course, wrestling is on the card here today. It's finals in individual competition and team competition coming up. It's all come down to this, ladies and gentlemen. We want to welcome you from around the state, northern Minnesota, here in the Twin Cities on KTMA TV 23, surrounding areas in greater Minnesota, the Dakotas, Wisconsin, and Iowa. We're glad to have you on the line. It's come down to this: 24 wrestlers to battle it out in both Class A and Class AA competition tonight, beginning at 7 p.m. But today, it's team finals, the Final Four. 2 in Class A and 2 in Class AA. You'll see it all live right here on this station. We want to mention to you what we'll see in the past 12 years in Class A competition. Only 2 teams in the state of Minnesota have shared the title 10 of those past 12 years. You'll see them both today. Canby out of Region 3A, Staples out of Region 6A. In Class AA competition, instead of history, we're going to see some excitement from some of the big schools around the state of Minnesota. Apple Valley from Region 1 AA has been the champion throughout the middle 1980s. Last year, Simley wrestled the title away from Apple Valley. They're the defending champion, and we'll see Apple Valley and Simley also this afternoon, beginning at 3 o'clock. To bring it all here, we have some very special guests for you. From up north, we have the lumberjack Dutch Mahonen. He's going to be with us here this afternoon tonight and right through the tournament. Also, we're proud to present Vern Gagne as part of our telecast crew. We're going to introduce you to Vern and Dutch as our play-by-play pregame continues live from the St. Paul Civic Center here on KTMA TV 23. Welcome back to the St. Paul Civic Center. Consolation action is just underway and will continue until we begin our finals in Class AA and Class A team finals beginning at 3 o'clock in just less than an hour. Now, to call the action, to color it in for you in your home, we have 2 of the best that Minnesota has to offer. Of course, to my immediate right, Randy Dutch Mahonen. Dutch, good to have you on the broadcast.
Thanks a lot, Paul, and it's a pleasure to be here.
And before we introduce our next guest, on my far right, I want to mention something about his background. He's certainly one of the best that we have in the country when it comes to wrestling, and he's done more for wrestling over the years than anyone that I can think of combined. Vern Gagne is certainly one of the best, as you can see from his biographical information. He was born in Robbinsdale, Minnesota. His background includes a state championship right here in this kind of event at heavyweight in 1943 when he was at Robbinsdale, and then of course he went on to Big Ten play in football and wrestling, NCAA championships in the late 1940s, an appearance on the Olympic team in 1948, and the AAU champion in 1949, as well as the AWA, none other than Vern Gagne. Vern, it's just a credit to have you with us here today. I know you've been a big fan of wrestling all your life because it's been so much a part of your life, and we're just excited to have you with us here today.
Well, I'm more excited than you to be here with this high school wrestling. It's where I got my start, and to see all these great young athletes in action, it's really been a thrill. I can't tell you how much fun it is. It's going to be fun today doing this. I'm delighted that amateur wrestling is going to be on television, and hopefully we can make it as exciting and more exciting perhaps than pro wrestling.
Vern, you will be providing the color commentary today for AA team finals beginning at 3 o'clock and for AA individual finals tonight at 7 o'clock. What do you know about some of the individuals around the state and some of the teams, just in your brief background here in the past few days?
Well, of course, we got, it all boils down to who's the best, and we're going to see that tonight. Now, we're going to be doing Simley and Apple Valley, and that's going to be a tough one. Now, the big Dutchman here, I think, has picked Apple Valley. Is that right, Dutch?
Well, I wouldn't disagree with you, Vern. I'm scared of you.
Well, I'm retired, so you don't have to worry about me anymore. But I'm going to go with Simley in that one. They're a very tough team. They've had one victory over Apple Valley in the dual meets. Now, I could be entirely wrong. They could come back, switch their wrestlers into different weight areas, and they may surprise Simley. But it's going to be a tough battle all the way between 2 great teams.
All right, we're going to preview that AA competition match coming up at 3 o'clock between Simley and Apple Valley, and that'll be coming up in just a few minutes. Dutch, let's get you in for just a moment. Again, you're going to be handling the color commentary on Class A competition this afternoon. That'll mean Canby and Staples tonight, some of the best wrestlers from around Greater Minnesota.
Well, Paul, this is the matchup that everyone's been looking for in Class A. You've got the David and Goliath matchup everyone wanted. You've got Canby, number 1 in the state, coming in, and Staples playing the David role. It's going to be tough all the way. Paul, one little ditty I want to add here. I want to say something about Mr. Gagne. Just before we came on live here, a young wrestler came up and wanted an autograph, and Vern wouldn't let him go away disheartened. He took the time, and that's what this man is all about, a great PR man for wrestling.
We're glad to have both of you gentlemen here today, Vern Gagne and Dutch Mahonen. As we continue live from the St. Paul Civic Center, we'll have a preview of Class AA competition coming up today in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back to the St. Paul Civic Center, where we're live as we have consolation action going on right behind us. Paul Brinkman along with Vern Gagne, and of course, Vern, we're going to be covering the AA action. You're going to be the color commentator for the team finals this afternoon between Apple Valley and, of course, their opponent Simley. And then later tonight, when the big 24 meet in AA competition for the individual finals, Vern, it's going to be just exciting.
Yes, it is. It's going to be exciting as any sport you're ever going to see. And hopefully we can just, these rules are just a little bit different than professional wrestling. So I want to point out to the professional wrestling fans to just, when you're talking about rules in this sport, I mean, they're really rules. They make them live up to them, and they're very strict about it. And that's to protect the wrestler, number one, not to make it as rough as professional wrestling, but it is tremendously hard. And these young athletes are some of the finest athletes in the state of Minnesota and in the United States, period.
Nothing's been easy for these young men. Let's take a look at the road to the finals in team competition. Earlier, it was yesterday, Apple Valley defeating Anoka to get here, 32-11. Simley, meanwhile, upended Little Falls by a score of 43-9. It was Apple Valley over Simley by a score of 43-9, and there you have the matchup, Apple Valley and Simley in the team finals AA here on the mat this afternoon. As far as past championships, we mentioned them at the top of our broadcast, and there are plenty. For Apple Valley, Vern, they've been tough right through the middle 1980s. As you see, Simley, meanwhile, is the defending state champion from 1987.
Right. They both got great wrestling programs in their communities, and we got to say congratulations to both coaches because they're the catalyst that springs these great programs in these particular cities. But it's going to be a heck of a meet this afternoon, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting.
And, of course, teams are made up of individuals. Let's take a look at some of the fine individuals you'll see on the mat in AA final action tonight. You will see for one of the teams, Tim Duran will be competing. Of course, Duran will be from Apple Valley Wrestling at 119 pounds. You'll also see Tim Duran tonight in individual final competition at 119. For Simley, they have excellent wrestlers in the middle weights. At 138, William Short. He's the son of the coach, Jim Short. We'll talk to Jim in just a moment. At 145, Kevin Aaron will wrestle. And at 155 in both AA competition this afternoon and finals tonight, Dan Harrison will wrestle out of Simley. So Simley is tough in the middle, and we got a team like Apple Valley that'll be tough early on, Vern.
Well, I think it's going to be right down to the wire between these two teams. As I said, they met earlier in the season. The coaches have set their strategies on where they've placed these wrestlers in the particular weights, and it's like a chess game. And if they put them in all the right places, of course, the one that does that's going to come out the winner.
Well,
so
Vern,
it's going to be just exciting. It's going to be a great afternoon of wrestling.
It's going to be super, and rather than speculate on it, let's get the coaches in there themselves and talk a little bit about what we can expect to see when team competition between Apple Valley and Simley gets underway at 3 o'clock. We'll return with more special interviews with coaches from Apple Valley and Simley right here on your station for Minnesota State Wrestling, KTMA Channel 23. Welcome back to the St. Paul Civic Center as consolation competition continues, and we count down the minutes to that exciting team finals getting underway at 3 o'clock right here on this station. Of course, we expect to see a great matchup in AA competition between the Apple Valley Eagles and the Simley Spartans. With us now is the coach of the Eagles, Bill Desmarais. And Bill, it's just great to have you with us. I know you've been a long-time coach in wrestling ranks in the state of Minnesota. You're well respected, and so is the Apple Valley program.
Thank you very much. We're happy to be here, and we're excited about the finals.
Okay, the finals. You had a great season, 24-2 if you count some of the state competition you've had in the past couple of days. You got one good one there at 119. He's among the best, Tim Duran. What can you say about that young man?
Tim has had a real good term. He's real physical, and he's worked hard all year and made good progress, and we're happy that he's where he is right now.
Now, Bill, Tim will be in the individual finals tonight at 119. Will you still wrestle him for the team, or can't you say yet?
Yeah, we'll wrestle him for the team. We don't have an alternate at that spot, so he'll wrestle at 119 for the team.
How about along the rest of the weight classes? What do you feel Apple Valley's strength has been over the years that has built up the team from top to bottom that brings you to state tournaments here in the middle 1980s?
Well, this year's team, we have a well-balanced team, and we're maybe a little stronger in the lightweights, but it's the balance, I think, that got us here this year. And our feeder program and the people in the community of Apple Valley and the school district itself have all been real supportive and made a commitment to the athletic program, and that's why we've had the tradition that we've had so far.
Bill, I don't need to paint the picture for you, but let's mention it for our viewers. It's a tough one today against the Simley Spartans. You two are among the best in the state. What do you need to do against Simley to make it count for your squad here when we get underway with the AA team finals in just a few minutes?
Well, we need to win in the lighter weights, and then we need to get a win somewhere in the middle where they're really strong.
That middle weight class for Simley, that's tough. Is there any weight class where you figure you have a chance maybe to hold your own?
Yeah, 138, we have Bobby Green, who is going for third and fourth at 138, and he has a chance if he wrestles well.
We want to wish you the best of luck, and of course to the team at Apple Valley, continued success in the program.
Thank you very much.
Bill Desmarais of the Apple Valley Eagles, and also with us, and we had to keep these two gentlemen separated, happens to be Jim Short, the head coach at Simley for the Spartans. Jim, what a program. You're the defending state champion. You've got a lot of weight on your shoulders here, or are you at ease this weekend?
No, we're not at ease. We think we've got a very tough opponent tonight. They came to Region 1, which we used to be in, and it's the toughest region in the state, and any team that can come out of there is going to give anybody else a lot of competition in the state.
Jim, you're the Region 3 AA champion, and of course you had a great season, only one loss, that to the AAA defending champion out of the state of Iowa. So your boys really are not used to losing matches. Could that affect you here in such a big play such as today, this afternoon?
They're used to wrestling under pressure, this group of kids, and I think that'll help us today. We're going to need it, especially. As far as losing to Dowling, we lost by a point, but it just speaks well for Minnesota wrestling because there are several teams here that could have done similar to Dowling. I mean, Minnesota is just very close to Iowa now at the high school level.
We are close. How else can you compare Iowa wrestlers to Minnesota wrestlers at the high school ranks?
Well, at the national tournaments now in freestyle, we've been placing and beating many of their wrestlers too. So Minnesota over the last 5-6 years has come up and is very close to the Iowa high school wrestlers.
So nationwide, people would naturally say Iowa for leaders among national wrestlers at any level. You feel, though, Minnesota is close on the heels of Iowa wrestlers?
No question about it. And at the high school level, we're right there right now.
You heard Coach Bill Desmarais, your opponent this afternoon from the Apple Valley Eagles. Do you agree with his assessment that the Eagles need to win in the lower weights because you're so tough up the middle?
I guess that's where we want to win one or two, because if we don't, then it's going to be a very close battle, because we figure we're going to be a little better in the top, but they're a little better in the bottom, so we got to win some matches down there.
How would you compare this team to last year's team, since you're the defending state champs?
A little more balance, because our lower weights are a little stronger than they were last year, but we don't have the stopping power at heavyweight and 85 that we had last year. We had a state champ and then a kid that placed 5th in the state the year before, so we had pretty good 1-2 knockout punch at the end last year.
You're a modest father, because we know your son was the state champ and certainly one of the best wrestlers in the country last year. He's quite a young man.
Yeah. He's doing well. He had an unfortunate accident at the U with a broken foot, but he got redshirted, so we're looking forward to 4 more years at the university with him. So
you got another son in the program, and let's work into it. The middle weights: Willie Short at 138, Kevin Aaron at 145, and Dan Harrison at 155. Will you wrestle all these young men, since they do each appear in the finals at their weight class tonight in individual competition?
We have to, because Apple Valley's strong enough there that if we don't wrestle our best, we'll get beat there. So we have to wrestle all 3 of them.
Okay, what do you think of Class A competition, Jim, before I let you go? Since they never meet each other head-to-head at a state level, but you do meet during the year, how do you feel Class A competition matches up to Class AA in the state of Minnesota wrestling?
I think Class A is very strong, as strong as AA. Yeah, the team champions would be very close to us.
But in wrap-up again, getting back to today's match, you feel you'd like to steal a couple of the lower weight classes and then count on your boys in the middle.
That's what we have to do, no question.
We want to wish you the best of luck, Jim, to your individuals tonight and, of course, to your team this afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much for having us.
Jim Short, the coach of the Simley Spartans, and we want to thank both Jim Short of Simley and Bill Desmarais of Apple Valley. We're glad they joined us here this afternoon because they're preparing their young men for the grappling to get underway here at 3 o'clock. We're going to see it all, AA competition and single A competition. In fact, speaking of single A competition, when we return, we will preview the single A finals, the team finals between Canby and Staples, and bring Dutch Mahone and the Lumberjack back into our broadcast right after this 2-minute timeout on the 1988 Minnesota State Wrestling Network over KTMA TV 23. It's Minnesota State Wrestling action live from the St. Paul Civic Center. Paul Breckman along with Dutch Mahonen, and it's time, since we've already looked at the AA finals to get underway between Apple Valley and Simley in just a few minutes. It's time to look at single A competition to begin at 3 o'clock this afternoon in Class A. Canby and, of course, Staples. Now, Dutch, I think one of the most amazing things about this competition is the simple fact that Canby and Staples, between the two teams, have won 10 of the last 12 state champions dating to 1976.
That's right, Paul. When the schools split into A and AA, it seems that Staples and Canby took over, and I believe Staples has won 6 state titles with Canby winning 4, and that's who we're going to see here today once again.
I think that is an amazing statistic. As you can see, Canby winning 4 state championships, Staples winning 6. I'm sure these wrestling programs are very familiar with having great wrestling teams over the years, and they have a lot to defend here. I really think this is going to be a classic matchup and a little bit of history over the last 15 years here at this state tournament, because you always hear the name Staples, and oftentimes in recent years you hear the name Canby.
Well, that's right, Paul. You've got Staples out of Region 6A, West Central Minnesota, and then you go way down near Redwood Falls in the southwestern part of the state, and you'll find Canby, and those farm boys can wrestle, and they're out here to show their stuff today.
Dutch, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. I do want to mention how these two teams got here, and of course we'll go to that graphic and mention simply this. Canby appeared to have an easy time out of quarterfinal action, but as you can see, when it came to the semis, they went up against previously undefeated Goodhue and had to come back to win them 29-23, Canby over Goodhue. That was a very close match.
That was a very close match, Paul, especially since Canby had such an easy time in their opening duel with St. James at 47-8. They came out against Goodhue, who formerly undefeated Goodhue, and 29-23, it went to the wire, but Canby came out on top.
For Staples, again, they had a tough row to hoe. They had a fairly easy time coming out of the quarterfinals, but when it came to semifinal action, Haynesville gave Staples all they could handle. In fact, Staples had to come from behind to win 25-18. So both Staples and Canby, Dutch, had to fight to get here, but they're here now, and I'll tell you what, this is going to be just a classic matchup. Why do you think these teams are so strong over the years, Staples and Canby? I mean, they're here all the time. It's like they're ubiquitous.
Well, personally, Paul, I feel that in both schools there is not a hockey program. Wrestling is their thing. The kids start young. They start in grade school, and it's a way of life in the community. It brings them together. You can hear the noise in the background, and the A schools, they roll up the streets and the sidewalks, and they bring them all to the Civic Center, and the whole town's behind their programs.
Of course, you can say that the teams have the tradition, but of course teams are made up of great individuals. And as we saw earlier in Class AA competition, Class A competition is no difference. In fact, we're going to see some great individual wrestlers on the mat in Class A finals this afternoon. For Canby, 2 to watch at 112, Chad Merritt, and at 145, Mike Kontz. Both Merritt and Kontz will be seen tonight in individual final competition in Class A for Canby.
That's right, and they're two of the tough A wrestlers in the tournament, Paul. They're just going to get their warm-ups this afternoon to go head-to-head in the individuals tonight.
And of course, Staples has had their share of great wrestler individuals over the past years. There's one in particular we want to mention at 105 pounds, Jeff Stericker. He qualified, or rather, he was the state champ at 98 pounds in 1987, just last year, Dutch. And Stericker's back this year, one weight class up at 105. Stericker will be wrestling tonight in individual competition. We may see him on the mat this afternoon when Staples and Canby play each other as teams.
That's right, Paul. Mr. Stericker, a tough cookie, defending champion at 98, coming in this year at 105, and a super talent, no doubt about it.
It's going to be a super matchup of some Class A teams that have been around for as long as we all can remember. And again, it's going to be quite a matchup between the Staples Cardinals and the Canby Lancers. We'll have a chance to talk to both of the head coaches for these teams when we return with more of our live pregame program from the St. Paul Civic Center. It's 1988 Minnesota State High School Wrestling, live on KTMA TV 23.
We're going to give it the best shot we can.
Well, Coach, can you go over your team as to your strengths, your strongest weight classes, where we can look for you to get your team points?
Well, we're going to have to score early. Hopefully we can get 3 or 4 wins out of the first 4 or 5. And if we can do that, then we're in pretty good shape because we have a chance in the upper weights for a couple of wins. In the middle, from 12 up to about 67, they probably have the strongest group of kids of any class, A or AA, in this tournament. They are just extremely strong right in the middle.
In that case, would you say that to win this match on team points, it's imperative for your wrestlers to try and pin their way through this?
We're going to have to get some pins because I know that they're going to get some, so we have to match pin for pin. Their 112-pounder is in the finals and is just a very, very strong kid, and we're going to send out a sophomore against him, and it's going to be, he probably has some flight time before it's over.
Well, I'm sure that Coach Jingles of Canby has got some strategy planned for you too, because he knows the tradition of Staples, and he knows that you guys are going to come out roaring tonight, or this afternoon, I mean.
Oh, it's right. When we go against one another, it's usually pretty close to the vest, and boy, it's a dogfight. They try to do what they can, and we try to do what we can, and it's usually a very close match.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about your coaching career at Canby. How long have you been, at Staples? How long have you been head coach?
I've been there for 25 years, which seems like, an awful long time, which it is an awful long time. And I would have never thought I was going to coach that long. I mean, honest to gosh, that is a long time. And now I don't know when I'm going to quit coaching.
Oh, I see. Okay. Now, Staples is a school in the state, wrestling history-wise, known for the deadliest pinning move in wrestling, probably the cradle. Now, the last few years, Staples has deviated from that. You've gone to other combinations. Can you give us an explanation?
Well, we used to be able to throw that thing on because it was a new move that hardly very many people knew how to counter it, and now they're learning more how to counter it. So we have to go and be more diversified. When they do this, we have to go switch and change to this. And we use more legs with it now and turn them over maybe on bars and stuff like this, but it usually all starts with a crossface, and the crossface cradle is probably the trademark that we have for Staples, is because we get an awful lot of pins. Right now we're probably at about 190 pins we have this year, and of the 190 pins, I'm sure 170 of them are from the cradle.
Okay, Coach, we'll be looking for that in your match with Canby. Just a little aside, you've coached probably as many, if not more, state champions than most coaches in the state. At what age do you recommend a young man to start out with wrestling?
Well, I don't know, but we don't usually have an organized practice with them until 3rd grade. There's some younger kids that really get involved with it, and in the spring and in the summer they run around to tournaments and stuff like that, and some of them are involved as kindergartners. But really, we don't use organized practice with them, and that's just for 4 or 5 weeks, and that starts with 3rd grade.
You don't want to burn them out too young, in other words.
No, I know a lot of other people have different ideas on this, but we do not have many kids burn out or decide to quit because they can't take it. It's because it is a very demanding sport, and you want to make it fun, and that's what we really try to do it in elementary, is just make it fun, and hopefully they can learn some skills and enjoy it.
Well, I know you must be highly qualified because you have 2 sons of your own at UMD in the Nationals.
Yes, 2 years ago I had the opportunity to go out and watch all 3 of my sons make All-American at one time, and I don't know, maybe it's happened before, but it made me very, very proud as a father to be able to observe this, and it was an occasion a person will never forget in his life.
Okay, Coach, well, I want to thank you for being with us. I know you want to go and spend some time with your charges here. Good luck in the upcoming match, and hope to see you in the victory circle.
Well, it's going to be a good meet.
Thank you, Coach Dravis. Folks at home, I was unable to get Coach Jingles of Canby. He is with his troops in the locker room and preparing for the upcoming duel. This is Dutch Mahonen live from the Civic Center. This is State High School Wrestling on KTMA Channel 23. Welcome back to the Civic Center. We've had a little surprise. Coach Gary Jingles of Canby has joined us. Coach, I realized that you were with your team getting ready for this upcoming biggie with Staples.
Yeah, we got some kids with some physical problems, and we're just trying to get it all straightened out and get them feeling right. We don't know for sure what to do in a couple weights, and I guess that's why I was a little bit late getting here.
Well, that's all right, Coach. No need to apologize. I was going to say, this is nice, all the folks back in Canby can see you, but I don't think there's any people left in Canby. I think they're all here in St. Paul.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of them down here. I don't know. I think there's a few TV sets on in Canby, though.
That's good, Coach. Okay, you've got what's reputed to be the strongest contingent of wrestlers in the history of Canby wrestling. You're number 1 in the state. How do you rate this team opposed to some of the past?
Well, we've got a lot of courage. We wrestled tough down here, and we've had some problems, and I guess I can't. We're so much different than teams we've had before. We were awful good in '86, and we haven't. I can't tell you that this team is better or worse, but I think they're going to come out and go hard, and that's all I want.
That's all you can ask of your kids, is to do the best. Coach, how long have you been at Canby?
I came to Canby in 1964, and I've been in and out a little bit, but I've coached wrestling about 20 years.
About 20 years in the game, and today you're meeting a tough team, Don Dravis' Staples Cardinals, and they're tough supposedly, according to Coach Dravis, in the lighter weights and in the upper weights. You've got the strong middleweight wrestlers.
Yeah, that's the way it looks on paper. They're tough on the ends, and maybe we got an edge in the middle, but the Staples wrestle so well that even when their kids aren't good, they wrestle well, and it's just hard to beat them.
Well, Coach, Canby's coming in here with a record of 15-2 on the year. The 2 losses, I believe, were to AA schools, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we wrestled several AA schools, and we lost 2 in December, the same day, to Apple Valley and New Prague.
And Staples coming in, I believe, at 16-1. So we've got a great matchup. I know your 2 teams, Staples and Canby, have met in the past. Do you enjoy wrestling them?
Well, I don't really enjoy wrestling them, but we've had 8 dual meets in the state tournament with Staples, and they've all been good ones, and I think it's great for wrestling, and I can't really say that I enjoy wrestling Staples, but it's fun to look back at later, especially if you happen to win one.
Well, that's right, Coach. I want to thank you for taking the time being with us. I know you want to prepare your people for this upcoming duel. Good luck, and give her a heck this afternoon.
We'll sure try.
Thank you, Coach. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with our preview show after this timeout.
Welcome back to the St. Paul Civic Center live. And of course, we're counting down the final minutes before the start of the Final Four. That's right, the team finals for Class A and Class AA competition for the 1988 Minnesota State Wrestling Crown. In Class A, it'll be Canby and Staples. In Class AA, of course, Apple Valley and Simley. And it's going to be great. We're glad to have you along the line on our broadcast, our telecast here today. Of course, Vern Gagne with us, Vern,
Thank you, Paul.
we just had a chance to talk with some of the coaches, as you saw, and Dutch Mahonen met with some of the coaches for
Right.
Class A. These men are really dedicated to the many young men throughout the state of Minnesota that participate in high school athletics.
Well, there's just, I don't know what the number of participants, total participants in the sport of wrestling in the state of Minnesota, but it's huge. I think it's much higher than hockey, probably higher than basketball and many, many sports, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. But with 10 or 12 boys on one team, plus all the extras you have to make up a good team, there's a lot of participants, and we're just delighted about it.
It's time to salute the many coaches, players, and fans that are not only here today, but in their homes around the state of Minnesota and the surrounding region, waiting for the wrestling action to begin, because it takes a lot of dedication, no matter who the athlete is, to come into the tournament and perform here over this weekend.
Right, don't forget all those worried mothers out there, when those young men have to cut that weight, and those mothers, they want to feed them, but they want to put a lot of food in them because they're growing. But in this sport, you got to sacrifice, you got to get that weight down to the exact fraction of that pound that you're going for, and it's tough on the parents sometimes to watch their kids do that. But it's great discipline. The coaches know just how far to take them. We got a great program in the state of Minnesota, and you're going to see it here this afternoon.
We're getting ready to get underway with the AA and Single A team competition in just a few moments. And of course, we're counting down the final few minutes. Paul Brinkman along with Dutch Mahonen and Vern Gagne live from the St. Paul Civic Center. You will see a Class A competition between Canby and Staples. In Class AA, it'll be Apple Valley and Simley. And of course, we expect some of the great action between these two teams to develop, especially in that Single A competition. Should be a close one between Canby and Staples, Dutch. It's going to be just a great matchup there.
Well, that sure is enough said about that one, Paul. We've got Staples coming in here. Coach Travis nervous, getting his charges ready in the warm-up area. A real heck of a nice fella. Thanked us for being on and bringing wrestling into the people's homes. Coach Jingles from Canby, a little bit hyper. This is for all the marbles.
You can see, of course, that there's a lot of wrestling fans here, including some of the youngsters that are getting set for their future in wrestling. And you start at a young age in this sport. And of course, there's a lot here today. We're going to fill this auditorium, hopefully. If you're unable to be here, we're glad to have you along on our network line. Of course, our flagship in the Twin Cities is KTMA TV 23, the friendly folks down there that have been so helpful in helping you get this broadcast in your home. And of course, our stations up and down the line around the state of Minnesota and throughout the upper Midwest. There you see one of the teams warming up as we get set to get underway with competition in the final AA and Single A team competition. Paynesville won the consolation tournament. This is Paynesville, and Paynesville, of course, came away with a consolation crown, and that'll be third place in Single A competition. Paynesville beating Goodhue, and that's a bit of an upset. Goodhue had come into the tournament undefeated. Goodhue went on to lose a heartbreaker in semifinal action, and Paynesville went forward then at that point to win the third place consolation crown. You see some of the Twins fans that are wrestling fans here today, and they're just excited to get underway. They're waiting, of course, for the big matchup in team finals, Class A and Class AA competition. Let's take a look at what will happen, and we'll turn first to Vern Gagne in AA competition. Vern, we're going to put you on the spot. You've got an Apple Valley club that was one of the best in the state of Minnesota. They proved it, 3 straight state champions in the mid-1980s. You've got a Simley club coming in here. They had 9 individuals in the tournament. They were the team favorite. They've been winning big, but they're going up against a tough Apple Valley team. Simley, of course, will be defending their state championship crown from last year. How do you see that one in AA?
Well, it's tough to go against the former champions, and I'm I just would like to say that that I got to go with Simley for the reason that they were former champions. I believe they defeated Apple Valley one time during the season, and that gives them an edge, maybe a psychological edge. So I'm picking them to come through in this one. It's going to be a tough fight, I believe. But I think Simley's got some individuals that are very, very tough wrestlers. That's going to be exciting.
So you feel Simley out of Region 3 AA, Jim Short and his many fine wrestlers are going to be able to beat Apple Valley today in the team Class AA final.
Well, that's what I'm picking. I don't know what Mahoney over there is picking, but I'd hate to have to wrestle him off here from this thing.
You know, Dutch, you're going to be doing the color on Class A, but Vern brings up a good point. What about in Class AA? I'm going to ask you just off the top of your head. How do you see it? Apple Valley out of Region 1 AA, Simley out of Region 3 AA.
Well, Paul, the way I see it, Simley coming in here as the defending state champions. They've got a great team. They're coached well disciplined. Grand Rapids came down and met Apple Valley in the first round out of our Region 7 AA. They gave them a good match, lost by 4 points.
Right. It was close.
I'm going to have to go with Simley. They've got a great team, balanced throughout. Not that Apple Valley is any slouch, but I think overall Simley is the team.
So there's a clear consensus between our experts, Vern Gagne and Dutch Mahonen.
I thought he was picking Apple Valley earlier.
Well, I thought you had coached him on that, Vern, but it's going to be Simley apparently. The way you fellas see it, I'm sure Apple Valley and their fine coaching staff led by Bill Demeray will see it otherwise. And of course, as Bill Demeray said in our pregame about a half an hour ago, he feels that the Apple Valley Eagles must win in the younger weights and the smaller weights, and then go on to upset somebody maybe at 138 where they match up Bobby Green against William Short. So Apple Valley's got a tough road to hoe, but it's anybody's match. Let's turn to single A competition. We'll start with Dutch Mahonen, since Dutch, you're the expert in this area. Canby, the Lancers, against the Cardinals out of Staples. How do you see this one, Dutch?
Well, Paul, we've watched a lot of wrestling the last couple of days here at the Civic Center, and the Class A action has been just tremendous all the way down the line. Canby looks awfully tough all the way through, especially in the middle weights. They've got a lot of pinners in there that can rack up a lot of points for you. On the other hand, Staples with Coach Don Dravis in his 25th year, always tough. This is, Paul, a perennial dogfight. It's the match that anyone that comes to the tournament is looking for. Geez, I hate to pick one in this, but I think I'm going to stay a little closer to home, and I'm going to take Staples in an upset over Canby this afternoon.
Well, on paper, Dutch, that would appear to be an upset, but this is a very close one. All the experts agree that Class A team finals, which you will see at least half the matches this afternoon, is going to be a close matchup between the Cardinals of Staples and the Lancers of Canby. You're going to go with Staples in an upset.
Well, Paul, one of the reasons I'm going with Staples, and I'll make it real quick, they're 16-1 on the season coming into this match. Their only loss was a 3-point loss to Grand Rapids, a AA school during the season. And I know a little bit more about them than I do about Canby, but we're going to see a real tough matchup here. And this place is going to be rocking and rolling this afternoon, Brinky.
All right, Vern, I'm going to get you real quick. We got to go to a break here. Class A competition, Staples and Canby. The Dutchman, he likes the Staples Cardinals in what appears to be an on-paper upset.
Well,
how do you see it?
I'm going with Canby. I got to go just opposite of the Dutchman over there.
I'm glad I'm in between you guys.
And pick Canby. They're a perennial power. They got a great program going up there, and I know Staples is tough, but it's going to be great. It'll be fun to watch, but I have to go with Canby.
Well, we got two great ones for you. In Class A finals, it'll be Canby and Staples. And in Class AA, Apple Valley and Simley. We'll return and get underway with the start of Mat Action, live from the St. Paul Civic Center. This is the 1988 Minnesota State High School Wrestling Tournament. We'll continue with more after this timeout. Minnesota, they're going wild, Dutch. They are all primed for the Class A competition set to get underway. Cardinal fans, look at that red. It's a sea of red.
Okay, Paul, yeah, we're back live here, and I think what we're seeing over there, Paul, possibly is a third-place match with Anoka, if I'm not mistaken, over there in the left-hand corner.
That would be AA competition between Anoka and their opponent as they are trying to settle the score for the consolation round. Anoka and Little Falls. It is close. It's come down to the heavyweights.
Right, Paul, what we're seeing here is the heavyweight action toward the end of the third place matchup. Little Falls and Anoka.
More fans, of course, here at the St. Paul Civic Center, and they're excited about AA and A competition set to get underway. Again, we go back to the Anoka Little Falls. It's all come down to the heavyweight competition, and I'm not sure who's in front. It's 24-21. I don't know which bracket which team is in. Dutch, did you get?
It's 24-21 Anoka. You see the Anoka wrestler with the green leg band on, and that's what indicates on the scoreboard.
But Little Falls they appear they're going to win the heavyweight. It would be a regular decision, and the match would end in a draw, in a tie. It's 24-21. Anoka in front. Individual-wise, Little Falls in heavyweight has won 5-2. Now that would put Little Falls in a 24-24 tie with Anoka, and they're going to have to settle that going back to match competition individually. That's the criteria, Dutch. They'll go back and see which team won more individual matches, Anoka or Little Falls.
I believe that is criteria 1, Paul, on a tiebreaker.
And Vern, of course, these tiebreaker situations are not uncommon at both region finals and state competition. These teams are so close.
Yes, they really are, and it's great to see that closeness. Great to see these young athletes in action. The determination and the elation on winning a match, and of course the dejection on losing one. And this poor heavyweight from Anoka lost his match and allowed the other team to tie him.
Well, it's all tied up. We're going to have to wait for the announcement. We joined it in progress as we saw the Little Falls heavyweight winning 5-2 and making it a tie 24-all. You hear the public address announcer, and there you see some of the Anoka wrestlers leaving their mat, and maybe it looks like they're a little bit down. Maybe, no, Anoka, they're going to award it to them. I don't think their own wrestlers realize that they had won in head-to-head competition. Anoka declared the winner on criteria number 1, which means they won more matches in that 12-match duel than their opponent, Little Falls.
That's right,
I don't believe they know the player, the members of the wrestling team, I don't believe realize they've won it yet.
Vern, Anoka, I believe, that'll mean Anoka will finish in 3rd place. And it came right down to the wire. And they're a little bit quiet for winning the 3rd place here at the state tournament. Vern, I don't think it's sunk in yet.
Ron Malcolm, the coach, been there a long, long time, done a fantastic job up there at Anoka, and he's got to be happy with this.
A big win for Anoka. They were ahead 24-21 going into the heavyweight. Their heavyweight lost to the Little Falls wrestler and tied up the team scoring 24-24. The team scoring, then they went to criteria number 1, which means that Anoka won more head-to-head matches, and they are declared the winner of the 3rd place trophy here at the state tournament. There's the Anoka coach that Vern Gagne just mentioned. Vern, he's been in wrestling a long time. I'm sure he's happy his team has come back and been able to wrestle from behind, go on and win this one, win 3rd place here at the state tournament.
Without a doubt.
Quite a competition.
Without a doubt. Here's the 4th place team getting their trophy. And to get 3rd and 4th in the state of Minnesota State Wrestling Tournament is still a big, big honor. And you know you've worked hard to get there, and these young people certainly deserve a great round of applause.
They certainly do, and of course a big win on criteria number 1 for the Anoka wrestling team. Anoka comes out of Region 4 AA. They will end their season with a record of 18 wins against 4 losses. Meanwhile, the 4th place team, Anoka's competition this afternoon, Little Falls, comes out of Region 8 AA, and Little Falls will end their season with a record of 11-6. So Little Falls in 4th place, Anoka in 3rd place in the consolation round. And of course, we do not have a result yet on the consolation series between Le Center and Aitkin. Vern, that should have been another close competition, as these teams are fairly evenly matched.
Yes, they certainly are. With those records, 38-21 and a 30-25 record, those teams are very well matched.
Excuse me, Paul, I have that score. I have that score over here. Yes, sir. It was Aitkin over Le Center, 37-18 in the consolation round. So the Gobblers of Aitkin High School come out on top.
So Aitkin High School is the consolation champions in Class AA competition. Aitkin High School, the Gobblers, as Dutch Mahonen mentioned.
Well, they must have a lot of lumberjacks on their team. I saw some of those kids last night. They were really muscled up, and I know it wasn't from weightlifting, just from hard work out in the woods there around Aitkin.
I think so, Vern. You and I watched a number of their wrestlers, and they showed a lot of upper body strength.
They certainly did. They were very, very husky and a well-conditioned team.
Vern, there's an old friend of yours
Big
who's now
K.
with the Minnesota State High School League, Stan Kowalski, giving out some of the medals to some of the consolation participants.
Right. How did the Big K get in here?
You know, he's been very active, Vern, in recent years in school boards around the state of Minnesota, and he's attached to the Minnesota State High School League. I believe he's even a school board member in his hometown right now.
It's been a well-kept secret. I don't know how could it be a well-kept secret as long as he's the man I'm talking about.
Now, he's not the ex-champ, is he?
Pardon? An ex-champ.
The Big
I
K.
tell you what, the Big K and Tiny Mills many years ago did for a while hold the tag team championship of the world. The late Tiny Mills, great old wrestler. But the Big K?
No way. There's Anoka lifting the trophy. Third place in AA competition, beating Little Falls as Little Falls comes in fourth in AA competition here at the Minnesota State Tournament. We'll return as we're getting set to get underway with the team finals between Canby and Staples and Apple Valley and Simley. That's all coming up as we continue our live coverage of the 1988 Minnesota State High School Wrestling Tournament live from the St. Paul Civic Center on KTMA TV 23. Looking at the squared circle at the St. Paul Civic Center, we are live, and it's finals, team finals in AA and Class A competition. Paul Brinkman along with Dutch Mahonen and Vern Gagne as we're getting set to get underway with the team finals between Canby and Staples in Class A competition and Apple Valley and Simley in Class AA competition. A great crowd on hand. Vern, you were a champion in 1943 State High School League. 1943 lists you as the champion in the heavyweight division. You've been here before. What's it like? There's just so much excitement, and you're at the highest level of your game. You got to really feel that pumping of adrenaline.
Oh, you really do. We had a great old coach at Robbinsdale, Mark Woodward, and many of the Robbinsdale people, the people around the Lake Conference will remember he kind of the father of wrestling. He had 8 straight years of state championship teams. He was a great, but he got you pumped up, and he got you really ready for this kind of competition. In those days, it was held over at the field house at the University of Minnesota, and to go from Robbinsdale, I lived out in a farm out in Hamel and Corcoran, that area, and to go out to the big city and be in that kind of environment as we are here in the Civic Center today. I mean, for the first time, it kind of got you. It you know, a little scary and all that. But once the match started, you concentrated on that, and you soon got over the jitters of being in a big tournament like that.
You know, Vern, you mentioned Robbinsdale had a great program. Indeed, they did. From 1937 to 1987, Robbinsdale has won the most individual state championships. Robbinsdale's listed with 50 individual championships. Of course, one of them is yours, followed by Anoka with 33, Blue Earth with 31, Wayzata with 23, and Mound West Tonka, your current home, with 22.
Yes, we in Lake Conference in those days, we racked up a lot of wins and a lot of state champions, both from Mound, Wayzata. I remember the Jordan boys, the Lures out there at Wayzata, and Fritz Soul and the Chapmans out there at Mound, and some great rivalries in those days. And the Lake Conference was very, very strong in wrestling, as it still is today.
You know, it's interesting, Vern, how a lot of these teams now are not Anoka, however. They just placed third here in the AA, but some of these teams really aren't as strong as they used to be in wrestling, and you have younger teams coming up. Do athletics tend to run in cycles in high schools around the state of Minnesota?
Well, I think it does, and it depends on the community itself and how bad they want their programs to go, what kind of coaching, well, all the way down from superintendents to the principals, to the teachers, the attitude in the community about wanting good programs. And if you want good programs, you got to have good people in them, and that's good coaches. We're getting some of the Apple Valleys and the new communities around the city, Burnsville in hockey. It tells it about everything. Young Edina used to be a very big powerhouse in hockey, and there still are, of course. We've got a great program out there. But communities rise and falls, I guess, like any other countries do or anything else. And but you get good coaching and people wanting good programs, they sustain it for a long periods of time.
Some of the Painesville boys on the screen as they are more than pleased with their finish here at the state tournament. Painesville just moments ago was able to wrap up the third place trophy here in Class A dual meet competition. So congratulations to the folks at Painesville. Goodhue walks away with 4th place. Dutch, we're going to turn our attention to you. Of course, Vern Gagne with his great experience in wrestling, and we mentioned he's a state participant and a state champion in 1943. Looking at your own record, I know that you're a big fan of wrestling. You've come down for 10 to 15 years here to the state tournament, and you've barely missed a year. What are some reflections that you have since the mid-1970s in some of the recent tournaments that you've seen here in Minneapolis-St. Paul?
Well, Paul, I think one thing is I don't think a lot of people realize the size of this tournament. It's a 3-day affair, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Attendance is a little bit down this year, but the place is starting to fill up. Everyone anticipating the Final Four, as it were. And the thing I've noticed, Paul, 1971, I believe they split the schools into A and AA. That opened it up for the smaller schools in the state to make it to St. Paul and show their wares in the big city. And I think it's helped wrestling across the state, although I would like to see, and maybe I can get Vern's opinion on this too, I would like to see the A and AA wrestle off.
Vern, what do you think?
Well, I'd love to see it also because it's at the small school against the big guys and the underdog, and you'd like to see that happen. I think even basketball right now, they're thinking about going back to a one-team tournament.
Yes, they are.
Or one-class tournament, rather. And, right. And, 16 teams, 16 then down to a winner. So we would like to see, my personal opinion, to see the A and AA wrestle it off.
Well, so would I, Vern, and I can't see where a team, let's say, for instance, that Simley comes out on top today in AA, and let's just hypothetically pick Canby. I can't see what would differentiate the two schools when 12 full weight classes each way.
Well, could be. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Vern. What were you going to?
Well, I agree with that. It just we'd like to see the playoffs right on down to the final. Who's the champ? And I think the fans would like to see it also.
Well, as you can see, they're moving the mats around, getting set for the team finals in Class A competition and Class AA competition. Just as a bit of a preview before we break, we do want to mention that in general we hope to follow this. You can mark it if you're following at home. Staples can be in Class A competition. We will start with them in the lower weights, 98, 105, and 112. Mark my word, Dutch, we know that Staples has to win at these weights.
Not only do they have to win, Paul, as Coach Rivas mentioned earlier, they've got to pin today. They've got to score as many points as they can to stay with the Canby Lancers.
Later on in the tournament, we will switch to AA competition in the middleweights beginning at 138 as Apple Valley plays Simley. And of course, we will cover any action as it develops. The teams are coming out. Canby is on its way, and they're going to move around the squared circle and begin to warm up. We're warming up here at the St. Paul Civic Center. Dutch, the crowd from Canby they are just thrilled, and they got megaphones. They're spinning what looks like leftovers from Homer Hankey City, and they are excited about what's going to be happening. Here's the opponents, Simley. They're getting ready for AA competition, Vern, and they've got great, I love those uniforms, those blue uniforms. Simley, by the way, keep in mind, we're going to see 3 of their wrestlers in individual competition later tonight. Not only that, Simley brought 9 individuals originally down here to the state tournament.
Well, here we go. The kids are warming up now, and I guess that's the Simley team over there. Here comes Apple Valley.
Staples coming in. Staples to work with Canby, and Apple Valley coming in just a few moments. We're going to come back and begin the start of this dual meet competition. It's the state finals live from the St. Paul Civic Center, the 1988 Minnesota State Wrestling Tournament on KTMA TV 23.
106. Call today.
Moments ago, you saw the records of the Class A competitors in the meet today in the finals, Staples and Canby. There you see Apple Valley and Simley. They are going to square off in AA competition. We are looking at the mat that will carry the Simley and Apple Valley match. And Vern Gagne, our expert in AA competition, this should be quite a matchup, although I know that you've picked Simley to win by just an edge, but let's face it, Apple Valley, if they can start out strong, they've got a chance in this one.
Right, they always have a chance. You never know how a young man or young person is going to perform in a situation like this, where it's for all the marbles. Some choke, I hate to use that word, and some turn on. because of the tournament time, sometimes wrestlers rise up better than they've ever rose up before to compete. So you got that unknown factor. But in this first match, we're going to have Mike Ahern against Andy Birches. In both 98-pound class. One's a sophomore. Mike Ahern is a sophomore, 10th grader. Andy Birches is 11th grade. And their records are just great. Andy Birches of Apple Valley, 23-7-3 for the year. And in Simley, from Simley, Mike Ahern, 10th grader again, 24-2-2.
All right, it's going to get underway in just a moment. Simley and Apple Valley. There you see Canby and Staples. Dutch Mahonen. This should be quite a matchup between these two teams, and I think it's really almost too close to call, although I know you've given Staples a chance here in an upset.
Well, I like to pick a dark horse, Paul, that makes it a little bit more interesting. Both teams fired up, and I'll tell you what, when these teams hit the mat, Brinky, I think the last people in town turned out the lights because it got pretty nuts on this end of the Civic Center. So we're looking for a lot of color and a lot of action coming up here.
A lot of Cardinal fans and a lot of Lancer fans here to the right of our broadcast booth as we get set for the Single A Championship round. Team competition, Staples and Canby. We want to mention, here's how we will follow. We will carry live certain competition that we feel is an important head-to-head matchup in a team. Then we will cut away to tape-delayed video from the other match, highlights that you'll be able to see in your home. So we're going to get underway here at the 98-pound class. Staples and Canby, good luck wrestlers. Wrestling at 98 for Staples is Bob Williams. He's only a sophomore, coming in with a record of 22-5. Wrestling for Canby at 98, an 8th grader, Mark Lasek. And Mark comes into the tournament with a record of 17-8-2, and we're just underway in the team finals, Class A competition at 98 pounds, Canby and Staples.
Paul, something I'd like to add here, a little inside information on Bob Williams of Staples. He has 12 pins this season, and his first year in varsity, so you know he's one tough little cookie. I don't know a lot about this 8th grader Lasek from Canby, but it looks like he's been throwing a few hay bales down in that country because he's pretty well proportioned at 98 pounds.
Canby is wearing the blue, of course, and Staples wearing the maroon. We're just underway. No points scored in the first of 3 2-minute periods. 98-pound wrestlers on the mat from Staples and Canby. I'll tell you what, these programs are excellent at these two cities, Canby and Staples, Dutch, really among the finest in the state of Minnesota.
Absolutely, Paul. Canby and Staples have proven in the past they can compete on any level in the state. Here you see the Staples 98-pounder Bob Williams trying to move in for a takedown. He's trying to shoot, but Lasek with some good defensive moves, Brinky.
Okay, so far no points scored. We're a minute into the first period. It appears that Williams from Staples has the advantage, but he's been unable to score a takedown on Lasek out of Canby. Staples shooting the takedown attempt, has trouble with it. Lasek is riding the back of Williams, and they're going to wrestle out of bounds. Dutch, neither wrestler wanting to make a mistake early on.
No, I know Staples is counting on some pins early, and Williams being a little bit cautious here, but 46 seconds to go in the first period, Paul. There's a lot of time left.
Williams reaches for a leg, can't come up with it, comes back to his feet. Williams would like to shoot a one-leg takedown, but Lasek out of Canby is kind of going defensive here, Dutch. He's waiting for something to happen, and the wrestlers are not wrestling. They may award a stalling point. They give a warning to the Canby wrestler. He's going to have to get out there and do something.
Right, there's a stalling warning, and one more, a point will be awarded to the opposing wrestler. They're locked up out of bounds, and no points awarded.
You can receive points for a takedown, but not if it's out of bounds. Grasp and control, the key words, and of course it has to all be in the white outer circle of the wrestling mat. Canby is back in it after that stalling warning. Lasek apparently, Dutch, wanted to just wrestle defensively. We've got a real aggressive wrestler from Staples. Williams wants to shoot that leg, but Lasek just won't let him get in there.
No, he won't, and we're going to see a 2-point, no points awarded. I thought for sure that Lasek had gotten a 2-point takedown, but the first period's going to end 0-0. At 98 pounds, Class A.
It's always a problem for a wrestler like Williams out of Staples when his opponent will move to the edge of the mat like that, Dutch. He really can't get anything going. When he finally gets a potential takedown, it's out of bounds.
Right, Paul. And this is an 8th grade boy here, Mark Lasek, probably pretty seasoned at 17-8-2 coming in, but wrestling cautiously, and Williams trying to be the aggressor, but they're doing a lot of wrestling on the perimeter of the mat.
Lasik on top. He's able to break down Williams. He's working on the arm. Lasik now would like to get something going in the superior position. So far it's been all Williams, although no points have been awarded. We're in the second 2-minute period of the 98-pound weight class of the Single A team finals here at the St. Paul Civic Center. It's live state wrestling competition. Lasik still trying to break down Williams. And they're going to go out of bounds here, it looks like, and they do. Dutch, this is amazing. It appears that neither wrestler wants to make an early mistake, so they're not inclined to commit to anything that puts another wrestler at an advantage.
I think you're going to see Williams here try and stand up out of that referee's position, at least earn an escape point. He does try a stand-up. Lasik caught the leg. It took him down. A real nice move. And there's 1 point for the Staples 98-pounder Williams on an escape.
Bob Williams with a 1-0 lead. As we recall from our pregame, head coach Don Dravis out of Staples said that he felt his team, the Cardinals, had to win in the younger weight classes. Dutch, when you look at the roster, you can see that Staples really has to win early because Canby gets stronger as the team goes along.
Right. It's imperative for Staples to win early. Here you see a takedown by Lasik of Canby, and it's 2-1, Paul. A surprise by the 8th grader. He's up on points. 53 seconds to go. First period of action.
All right, Lasik now being the aggressor. He now has the lead. 2-1 for Canby. Again, these are key matches. Reversal awarded 2 points to Bob Williams. I take that back. It was an escape. A 1-point escape for Bob Williams. We're tied at 2-all. 44 seconds remaining in the second period. 3 2-minute periods of wrestling, unless it ends in a draw, in which case for team competition they'll leave it a draw. Tonight for individual competition, draws will go into overtime with 3 1-minute periods, but we'll talk more about that a little later on. Half a minute remaining here in the second period at 98 pounds. We're all knotted up. Williams out of Staples, Lasik out of Canby, a couple of young men, and again these are key weight classes for the maroon and white out of Staples. The Cardinals really want to win these ones, Dutch, because if they don't here, again, as we mentioned, Canby, with their strength in the upper weight classes, maybe a little bit too much down the stretch.
I think so, Paul, and I'm surprised that Williams isn't really taking it to Lasik a little bit harder here, because I'm sure that Coach Don Dravis has told them we've got to win these first 4 or 5 weight classes if we're going to stay with the Canby Lancers here this afternoon.
Well, in all credit to Williams, let's remember he came out scrapping. In fact, Lasik got a stalling warning, and then Lasik got back into it here in the second period, and we're going to end the second period with the score tied 2-all. Dutch?
Well, Paul, a real interesting match so far. Lasik wrestling real defensively, and we're tied up at 2 apiece. We've got 1 period to go. Here you see them locked up with a front headlock in the center of the mat, and down they go.
Takedown.
Oh, brother.
Lasik out of Canby gets a 2-point takedown, I believe.
I've got to see where. I don't think any points were awarded.
And Lasik
we have
may
an
be
injury.
injured.
When they went to the mat, I think Mark Lasik went hard on his shoulder, Paul.
Coach Jerry Gringles is out there with some of the training staff out of Canby High School. Of course, the coaching staff includes Jerry Jingles, who was kind enough to join us on the pregame. He's got some injury problems, and he was busy, but Jerry, we really appreciate you joining our pregame show. Assistant coach for the Canby Lancers is Bill Bredesen. The student manager is Todd Hoffman. And, of course, the school colors, as you can see, the blue and the orange. For the Staples Cardinals, head coach Don Dravis, who joined us in our pregame. His assistant is Kevin Olson, and the school colors for the Cardinals is cardinal and white. I'm going to call it maroon, Dutch. Maybe I'm a little bit colorblind.
No, I don't think so. It looks like maroon and white to me, Paul. The blue of Canby. Lasik's okay. He shook it off, and with 1:43 to go in the match, we're knotted up 2 apiece.
Here's that final, or third 2-minute period. And again, we're knotted up at 2 apiece, and a tie really does not appear to help Staples. We don't want to overdo that, though, Dutch. Again, anything can happen as we move along in the competition, but the Staples coach himself, Don Dravis, said that he felt his team had to win early, and this would be a chance here at 98. I do believe Williams is a more experienced wrestler than Lasik, but again, Lasik's been giving him all he can handle.
Well, you can see Williams moving toward the center of the squared circle, trying to lure his opponent out where he can get some area to work on him. I also want to point out, Paul, to the folks across Minnesota, if you notice, there are 2 referees working the mat, as is the case in any championship event here at the St. Paul Civic Center at the state tournament level.
And one of the referees, Dutch, is Jim Bartles, and Bartles was kind enough to join us in our pregame for our scoring feature. Jim, we really appreciate that. Again, we've got our score in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. From time to time, we will go to that, and you'll be able to follow the action as it happens. Some of the Canby fans up because they see their man is about to take down Mr. Williams out of Staples.
He's got a
Williams
single leg,
is fighting it up.
a single leg hook up there, Paul, and he's got a front headlock on him and wrapped up pretty tight. They're right on the edge of the mat. No points have been awarded yet, as Lazek from Canby does not have control.
And they're going to be out of bounds, I believe. No points awarded. We're still tied up 2 apiece. Williams and Lasek with 29 seconds remaining.
Pretty interesting match. 29 seconds to go. I know that Bob Williams of Staples knows what he has to do. The last half a minute should be pretty interesting.
Williams has got to shoot a takedown, and he knows it, as does his opponent Lasek, as he fights to the side out of bounds. The referees don't want to blow the whistle, Dutch. They'd like to see these 2 young men wrestle. And certainly Williams would like to see a wrestling match because he'd like to get a takedown here on Lasek and win this one.
Well, there you see Williams moving around out of bounds. And I think Williams is getting real frustrated at this point because it seems that his opponent is a perimeter wrestler and wrestling very cautiously. He wants to be the aggressor. Here they're locked up at the center of the mat, and it's tied 2-2.
That's going to do it at 98 pounds. The final in a draw. Well, they're going to award it a referee's decision, Dutch. A referee's decision. Williams apparently given credit for all the moves he made, and I believe he'll get a referee's decision. We'll wait for the official ruling at competition. We'll return now to the 105-pound competition in single A between Staples and Canby. Wrestling for Canby at 105 pounds is Kim Merritt. Kim Merritt, only a freshman at 105. And wrestling for Staples is Jeff Stericker at 105 pounds. He's a senior, and Stericker is also a defending state champion at 98 pounds in individual competition. Dutch, this will be a tough one for Canby because Stericker is an excellent wrestler.
Right, he is, and he's one of the ones to watch here. A dandy that's heading for the individual finals. And Paul, the team score right now is 2-2 on that draw at 98. And here you've seen a little bit stronger boys going at it at the center of the mat.
All right, Stericker with a 2-1 lead. Again, our opening 98-pound matchup between Lasek and Williams. Canby and Staples ended in a draw. The team score is now 2 for Staples, 2 for Canby. Jeff Stericker out of Staples having some trouble. They'll work from the center in the neutral position. Stericker again will be Canby and Staples locked up in a draw at 2 apiece. In Double-A competition, as we watch Single-A continue, Apple Valley has an early lead, 3-0 in team competition. 55 seconds remaining here in the first period between Stericker of Staples and Merritt, Kim Merritt of Canby. Stericker would like to work a pin here, and of course Staples could really use it. Again, Canby has a lot of strong men up near the top weight classes. Here in the lower weight classes is where Staples would like to make some hay, Dutch.
Absolutely right, Paul, and you're seeing 2 fine wrestlers going at it here. Continuous moves right off the mat in front of the Staples crowd. We're going to move back to the center of the ring here and do it again.
Dutch, time and time again when it comes to team competition, more even than individual prowess, the thing that impresses me is the coaching. Good coaches have a way of bringing the team together as a unit, and these players work off one another. Granted, they're alone in the center of that circle, but really you can see a lot happening on the sidelines, players wishing on their teammates, and I think it's part of the mix that makes team competition exciting as well as individual competition, as we see Stericker and Merritt going at it here at 105 pounds.
Right, there's 10 seconds to go in the first period here, and they're wrestling on the edge. And they're off with 5 seconds to go, Paul. And the score right now is 2-1 in favor of the Staples wrestler, I believe, Stericker.
Staples leading 2-1 early on. And it appears, as we see the first period come to an end, that the Canby strategy early on, Dutch, is to try to do their best to hang in these lower weight classes with Staples.
That's right, Paul.
They're not aggressive at all.
Here's where a coach really earns his keep, is in the team finals especially, because he's got to arrange those weight classes the best of his ability, and there's an injury to Merritt.
That's a bit of a development with Merritt, as we'll return now to AA competition already in progress at 105 pounds. The team lead 3-0. They won the 98-pound weight class, Dutch. As we return now to Class A competition, Dutch, give us an update on that injury to Skerritt.
Right now, it was Jeff Steriker from Staples who took a blow to the pumpkin, Paul. He was stunned. He came out storming mad after that injury timeout, and he's ahead right now, 4-2 with 57 seconds to go in the second period.
That's a bit of a development too, Dutch, when you consider Steriker will be wrestling tonight at 105 pounds, and certainly he does not want to go into that individual finals with an injury. Steriker is really working the back legs of his opponent. He's able to get him onto his back. He's going to work him now, Dutch.
He's going to work him, and at the initial start of the second period there, they met head-to-head on the mat. Steriker took a heck of a blow, and it really infuriated him. He's not wrestling dirty, but he's wrestling very aggressively at this point.
Both wrestlers appear to be very aggressive, and as we mentioned, Steriker with an injury in the second period, apparently able to continue with his match. Jeff Steriker won the 1987 championship, state championship at 98 pounds last year in Class A competition, and he's 105 pounds this year, wrestling well. We will see him tonight in individual competition, Dutch, but we're looking at him right now in an exciting matchup here at this 105-pounder for team competition between Staples and Canby.
Okay, there's 13 seconds to go in the second period here, Paul. It's 6-2 in favor of defending 98-pound champion Jeff Steriker, who is really working over Mr. Merritt from Canby at this point.
That's the end of the second period with the score 6-3. Apparently, Merritt is able to work an escape, but he's still down by 3 points. Again, the team score is 2-2 as we had a draw at 98 pounds.
Gee, you sure see some awful tough kids down here, Paul, at this tournament. They take lots of bumps and bruises. You see them holding ice on various locations on the body, but they're out there when it counts, and they're out there for the good of their team.
We're just underway in the third period with the score. Jeff Steriker of Staples with the lead 6-3. He's underneath his opponent, Kim Merritt, right now, but Merritt really doesn't have any kind of advantage. Right, Merritt in the blue working on his opponent, Steriker, underneath.
As we mentioned earlier, Paul, the school colors can be the blue and orange, and Staples the maroon and white. Okay, here you see a basic, I think it's a stalemate, but Steriker steering him back on the mat, and a 1-point escape will be awarded to Steriker, making it 7-3, 1:18 to go, third period of action. And Steriker trying to be as aggressive as he possibly can be. I think he'd really like to put Kim Merritt on his back for a pin. There you see him with a beautiful takedown. 2 points. He's ahead 9-3.
Merritt was able to fight to the table, though, so he didn't get any back points. But as you mentioned, Steriker does win the takedown. And with that 6-point lead, Dutch, he's just 2 points shy of scoring a team major decision, which would give Staples much-needed extra points.
Oh, there you see a mistake by Steriker. He got up to let his opponent loose. He wanted to wrestle him on his feet, and Kim Merritt heads up wrestling, just slapped a takedown on him to close it up to 9-6, Paul, and that was beautiful by Kim Merritt of Canby. A nice move, heads up wrestling.
Merritt is a young man, only a freshman, coming into the tournament with a record of 17-7. And he's going up against one of the best wrestlers at 105 pounds in the state of Minnesota. In the AA competition, as we continue to watch single A here in the third period, the score is 6-0 Apple Valley. So Apple Valley with an early lead over Simley, and Coach Bill Demaray must be happy because he hoped that his team could jump out to an early lead. Andy Burches scored a win at 98 pounds for Apple Valley, a regular decision, and Joe Vinovitz scored a win with a 7-3 decision at 105 pounds. So Apple Valley with an early 6-0 lead over Simley High School. And again, Bill Demaray is happy with what's happening for his Apple Valley Eagles. They need those lower weight classes. Back to Class A competition, 13 seconds remaining in the third and final period. Sterriker with an 11-6 lead.
And it looks like Jeff Sterriker is going to come out of this one a winner, Paul, unless a miracle occurs. And Staples is going to take the early lead they were looking for here in the Class A final competition.
That's going to be it for Sterriker, as Sterriker is able to decision his opponent, Tim Merritt, and get the first victory for the Staple Cardinals. The Cardinals lead the single A team wrestling competition over Canby with 2 weight classes complete by a score of 5-2. In double A competition, it's Apple Valley over Simley, 6-0. We'll return with more live action for the St. Paul Civic Center after this timeout.
At 757-4106. Call today.
Welcome back to the St. Paul Civic Center live. It's the 1988 Minnesota State Wrestling Tournament, and you're watching the championship series in Class A dual meet competition and Class AA competition. And as you continue to watch the 112-pounders wrestle for Class A competition, let's update the score between Apple Valley and Simley in the AA matches. Vern Gagne, what do we have?
Well, we got 6-0 Apple Valley, which is somewhat of a surprise, I think, here right away on this early part of the tournament, the match rather. We're into the 112-pound division right now. It's 2-1 right now with Simley ahead, but it was 7-6 Andy Birches over Mike Ahern. It was 7-3 Joe Venowitz over Wade Short. And now we're into the 112-pound class. That's the update. Apple Valley's ahead 6-0.
Our update from Vern Gagne in Class AA dual meet competition. Apple Valley with a surprising 6-0 lead early in that team match. Back to the single A 112-pound class matchup in Class A competition. Dutch Mahonen, what's been going on here as it appears Canby is back into it?
Oh, Canby's real tough at 112, Paul. You've got Chad Merritt, who's going for an individual championship tonight at 112, is ahead 11-3 at this point. 1:40 to go, second period of action. It's now 13-3 with that takedown over Darren Heldman of Staples, and Chad Merritt, one tough cookie, coming in at 26-0, Paul.
Chad Merritt in the blue, as you mentioned, Dutch, undefeated. We'll see him again tonight, and he is giving all he can on this Staples wrestling. It is a one-sided match, and Staples at 112, Joel Schreiber has all he can handle. Let's return to AA competition and update the story there, Dutch, as we leave single A with lead. Dutch, describe the pin that just happened at 112 pounds in Class A competition as we go to our replay camera.
Well, Paul, what we had happen there was a tech fall, a 15-point victory by Chad Merritt of Canby, who really worked over Darren Heldman of Staples, and right now this team score is 8-5 in favor of Canby. There you see the action, and the ref's really taking a close look, and that's the replay, and that's Merritt winning it, tech fall in the second period of action.
Now we return. Let's turn now to 119 pounds on Class A competition between Canby in the blue and Staples in the Cardinal Maroon.
Okay, it's 4-1 at this point in favor of Jason Lazinski of Canby. It's two seniors butting heads. The score is 4-1, and there's the end of the first period.
Return Spikula by a score of 4-3. Returning now to Class A competition at 119 pounds as the second period is winding down. Dutch, what's the situation here in the Canby Staples match?
It's 4-3 in favor of Rick Jasmer of Staples. A real tough match. Jasmer 23-1, a senior, and Lazinski also a senior, 17-4-1. The score is 4-3, a 1-point difference with 16 seconds to go in the second period.
Staples with the advantage. They need this one, Dutch. They are down now. Canby with a lead, 8-5, thanks to that pin by their wrestler only moments ago.
A tech fall.
Chad Merritt.
It was a technical fall at 112, Paul. And here you're seeing the close of the second period with the Canby wrestler riding real hard on Rick Jasmer of Staples. And second period closes out at 4-3.
All right, returning now to the AA competition. We're in the final third minute, a 7-3 decision The Apple Valley Eagles lead Simley 9-3 with a 119-pound weight class complete. It's Canby 8-5. Dutch, why don't you finish it at 119 pounds?
Okay, Paul, thank you. We're back. Canby, Jason Lozinski is really working on Rick Jasmer of Staples at this point, but there's a reverse. The score is 5-4 at this point in favor of Lozinski of Canby. Both wrestlers locked up in a stalemate at the center of the mat. 31 seconds to go in the match.
Staples really needs this one, Dutch.
Oh, they need it bad, but what an exciting match, Paul. The crowd's really into it, and the place is really getting hot.
19 seconds remaining. Canby leading in blue.
There you see Lozinski. He's got Jasmer in a bad way here. 7 seconds to go. 5-4 the score. This is the end of it, Paul, at 119. And there's 2 back points awarded.
Jason
Points awarded, and the final score is 7-6 in favor of Lozinski of Canby. The team score at this point would make it 8-5, I believe, Paul.
No, it'll be Canby leading now 11-5 over Staples with 4 weight classes complete. Apple Valley, meanwhile, in AA competition, leading their opponent Simley 9-3. We'll return with more wrestling action live from the St. Paul Civic Center. It's the 1988 Minnesota State Wrestling Tournament Team Duels. Stay with us for more wrestling action. You're looking live at the St. Paul Civic Center. The Class A Dual Meet Competition Championship Series, the finals between Canby in blue and Staples in the Cardinal red. At 126 pounds, it's Chad Moeller wrestling for Canby in blue, and Bill Therms, or rather Scott Stowell, pardon me. Oh, I got that wrong again. Darren Holst for Staples. Dutch Mahonen, we're just underway. No score, but Canby leads the team scoring 11-5.
11-5, Paul, on that last decision. Lozinski over Jasmer, 7-6. Here you're seeing Chad Moeller of Canby, a season record of 10-5-3, and Darren Holt at 20-7. Moeller a senior, Holt a junior. Real defensive match so far, Paul. Not much happening. A lot of grasping and clinching here at the center of the squared circle.
Dutch, what is the reason why a couple of wrestlers like this will wrestle defensively through a whole period without a score?
Well, I think wrestling here in the Civic Center's got a little to do with it, Paul. A little apprehension, and Staples knows they're at a point in this match where they're just about required to win, to stay with Canby. Down by 6 points, team points at the time.
Moeller in blue on top of his opponent, Darren Holst, at 126 pounds in the Class A dual finals. 1:45 remaining in the second period. No score in the match so far, and there's a potentially dangerous move, so the wrestlers will move up again to the neutral position. For the referee's position, it looks like. Again, no score, Dutch. What do we need to get going here? Who looks like they're maybe a little more aggressive?
Well, I'd have to go by season record. I'd have to go with Holt of Staples in this one at 20-7, although that didn't pan out in the previous weight at 119, where Lozinski of Canby pulled the major upset. But right now we're seeing 2 real good wrestlers, a potentially dangerous hold and a couple of stalemates because of the fact they're so good, and they're wrapped up real tight here.
Dutch,
there's a stalemate.
Coach Don Dravis felt that his Staples Cardinals team had to win some of these early weight classes. Do you feel this may be a pivotal weight class here at 126 for the Staples Cardinals?
I'll go out on a limb and say that if Staples doesn't take this match at 126, I think their chances are pretty slim, Paul, to win this team final, because Canby gets stronger here in the middle weights.
Moeller is trying to break down his opponent, Holst. Moeller, of course, in blue for the Canby Lancers, and he's looking for some back points.
Still no score in this match. 50 seconds to go, second period. Team score so far 11-5 in favor of Canby.
Canby so far with the early advantage in some of the smaller weight classes in this dual meet. It's championship wrestling, by the way. This is for the big trophy, the state championship. Canby has won 6, or rather correct that, 4 in the last 10 years. Staples has won 6 state championships in the last 10 to 12 years. So these teams are no strangers to state competition. At 126 pounds with 19 seconds remaining, Dutch, no score.
No score, and a stalling warning being issued to Darren Holst of Staples. You know, if they gave points on riding time, Moeller'd be ahead by a big margin, Paul. He's really tough on Darren Holst and not backing down one bit.
Riding points awarded, of course, at the college level, Dutch, but not at high school in Minnesota.
That's correct.
Time winding down here in the second period. Still no score.
Still no score.
Moeller of Canby and Holst of Staples. Let's return now to the AA competition at 126 pounds with Vern Gagne. We've got Scott Stowell. Turn now to 126 in the final 2-minute period of a 126 match between Canby and Staples.
It's 3-0 in favor of Chad Moeller of Canby. He's really wrestling well against the tough wrestler from Staples, Darren Holst. And there's 37 seconds to go. Canby's up 3-0, and here you see Moeller really wrapped up tight with Holst. Paul, he hasn't given him a lot of room to make many moves in this match.
He certainly hasn't. Canby, of course, in their blue wrestling outfits, and it's been mostly Moeller, although there haven't been a lot of points scored, and the Staples wrestler has had a couple of stalling warnings, Dutch.
Yes, he has, and I've noticed one thing about this Canby team that I hadn't really paid attention to this point. They'll ride you like a new suit, Paul. They cover you like a rug. Not a lot of room out there. It's got to be a real sinking feeling when you're covered by a Canby grappler.
Moeller in blue continues to work on his opponent, and with 9 seconds remaining, it looks like Moeller out of Canby High School.
It looks that way. 3 seconds, 2-1, and it's Canby. Moeller 3-0 over Holst.
Moeller is
That'll make it 14-5 in Canby team score, Paul. And boy, the Lancers of Canby came to wrestle today. They're giving Staples a lesson.
Thanks, Dutch. In team final competition after 5 weight classes, the Lancers of Canby with a 14-5 lead over Staples. In AA competition, it's Apple Valley leading simply 12-3. We'll return with more for the 1988 Minnesota State Wrestling Championship Finals right after this word. You're looking live at the St. Paul Civic Center here on KTMA TV 23 in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Paul Brinkman along with Dutch Mahonen and Vern Gagne. It's the 1988 Minnesota State Wrestling Team Finals, and this is the A competition between Staples and Canby. The Canby Lancers with an early lead, 14-5 over the Cards out of Staples. Canby with the advantage here in the first period of action. And Dutch Mahonen, what do we have developing here at 132 pounds? Canby's Chris Fairchild against Bill Johnson out of Staples.
Well, Bill Johnson came out storming early, Paul. He looked real good. He had a lead, but Fairchild of Canby has come back with a reverse to take a 3-2 lead at the end of one period. Two real good wrestlers here. Bill Johnson from Staples, a deceiving record, a sophomore at 2-2. Chris Fairchild, a senior, 18-4-2 on the season.
All right, Canby again with an early lead, 14-5 in team competition here. And Staples, Dutch, they have to try to get something going. They got an opportunity here with a young man at 132 pounds, Bill Johnson.
Well, they certainly could use a pin, Paul. At this point of the match, 6 points would look awful big for him, but Canby showing that the reason they're rated number 1 in the state by the Guillotine, the number 1 wrestling magazine in Minnesota, and they're an awful tough crew.
1:44 remaining in the second period. Canby, Chris Fairchild in blue going up against Bill Johnson in maroon out of Staples, and it's 4-2 in favor of blue, Chris Fairchild. And again, Staples really needs one here, Dutch.
They need it bad. I'm sure Coach Travis from Staples is starting to get worried because as we increase the weight classes here, Paul, right in the middle is where Canby is tough.
Chris Fairchild is 18-4-2 on the season coming into the tournament. And Bill Johnson, as Dutch Mahonen mentioned, a sophomore, has a deceiving record of 2-2. Dutch, he's pulled off the junior varsity apparently, or maybe he's coming back for an injury. He's certainly the equal of Chris Fairchild, although he's down by 2 points.
There's a big takedown. It's 6-2. Fairchild getting around the side of Johnson and taking him down to the mat. Paul, in 50 seconds to go in the second period. And here you see that riding style of Canby. Real tough on their feet. Tough wrestlers.
They like to tie up the legs of their opponents too, don't they?
They sure do. And I might have called this one wrong. I don't want to exit too early, but Canby looking awful strong today, Brinky. A real fine wrestling team. And Staples, a great team, but you can see, folks at home, that today Canby's all over them.
The Staple Cardinals came into this meet with a record of 16-1 on the season, counting tournament action. Canby, meanwhile, has a record of 15-2. Both excellent teams, both longtime state single-A powers in team competition, and they've had their share of state championships, as we've mentioned all along. That's the end of the second period, with Chris Fairchild in blue out of Canby leading his opponent Bill Johnson of Staples by a score of 8-3, and Canby leads the team play by 14-5. Now to the AA competition. In AA action, we're going to switch now, I guess, to single-A competition and back to Dutch Mahonen, where we have Canby and Staples. Dutch, update us at 132 pounds. We're in the final period.
Chris Fairchild from Canby in the blue, looking real tough, Paul. He's one of the best riders I've seen at this tournament. He's got Bill Johnson wrapped up tight with 17 seconds to go. He's got an 8-3 lead. Canby in front in the team score, 14-5. And here you see Fairchild. He not only wants to beat him by points, he wants it all. But I think we're going to see it end at 8-3 in favor of Canby. Chris Fairchild, a fine wrestler, at 132.
Chris Fairchild.
Final score 8-3 in favor of Fairchild over Johnson of Staples. That makes it 17-5. Canby moving up to the 138-pound weight class, Paul. So it looks awful tough for Staples.
With a 132-pound weight class complete, Canby appears in control in single-A competition. In AA, it's Apple Valley hanging on to a 12-6 lead over a tough Simley club. We'll return with more wrestling action live from the St. Paul Civic Center. We're happy to be here with you for outstanding amateur wrestling on our flagship TV 23 KTMA. That is just super. At 138 pounds in Class A competition, we've got one underway in the second period. Dutch Mahonen, what's happening? Canby looks to be in front again, and they lead in team scoring already at 17-5.
That's right, Paul. Mark Padilla from Canby at 138 is leading 4-0 over Barney Hershey of Staples. Hershey, 21-6 on the season. Padilla, 10-4-1. But both real tough kids, and here you see the Staples wrestler putting some points on the board. Barney Hershey with a nice reverse, making it 4-2.
1 minute remaining in the second period. 17-5, Canby leading in blue, 17-5 in team score over Staples. And at 138 pounds, Dutch, as we move into the heart of the middleweights, it's not too late for Staples to try to make a move if they hope to try to upset Canby at this point.
That's right, Paul. We don't want to sell Staples out here, but you know, they haven't had a lot of luck today. Canby really wrestling strong, and here's two real strong kids. We're moving up in the weight classes now, Paul. We're going to see a lot more strength moves. 138 and up, the kids are getting a lot stronger, and we've got a good one here. Mark Padilla and Barney Hershey at 138. The score is 4-2 at the present time in favor of Padilla.
What does Hershey have to do to try to get back into this one?
Well, Paul, you know, it's imperative at this point of the match, I would think, for Hershey to go out, you know, shoot the works and go for a pin.
Hershey's on top right now. He's working the leg.
He's riding him, but Padilla with a strong base underneath. He's not giving him anything to work with. 26 seconds to go, second period of action. There you see Padilla working his way around. He's got one guaranteed on an escape. It's 5-2, Padilla of Canby over Hershey from Staples. 18 seconds to go, second period of action.
Of course, Canby's last state championship came in 1986. I'm sure with a year off, they'd like to return that crown to the hometown, but Staples has plenty of weight classes yet to try to say something and determine there.
They sure do, but here you see Padilla. Oh, and a nice move to get back around to near his base was Hershey. He was in a bad way.
There you have it, back to AA competition now, where it's all knotted up.
He's got that single leg. He's trying to go behind, of course, but whoop, we missed. We're back over the other man.
I guess we've cut to single A competition at 138 pounds in the second period.
Out,
Dutch Mahonen, why don't you mention what's happening here in single A competition at 138?
Mark Padilla is really dominating here, Paul. 9-2 at the present time over Barney Hershey of Staples. And it looks dark for the Staple Cardinals as Canby has basically taken control of this match. There's 24 seconds to go in the third period, and Canby really wrestling tough today. I can't tell you, Paul, they're just super.
The Canby wrestler working for some back points. It's Robbie King, but he's not going to get any, and this match will end in a regular decision. It appears 9-2 in favor of Canby's Robbie King, and Canby now leads team scoring by a score on wrestling competition for Class A and Dutch Mahonen. Dutch, any developments as Canby continues their team lead 20-5?
Nothing much yet here, Paul. A real defensive match. No one taking control. The team score is 20-5 Canby, and not much action at 1:45 here in Class A. 0-0 at the end of 2 periods.
No score.
End of 1 period.
No score at the end of 1 period. We're going to take a 2-minute timeout and return for more wrestling action. Stay with us here on the 1988 Minnesota State Wrestling Network. Wow. Quite a development for Simley High School. As you see on our tape delayed, Vern Gagne, why don't you call this tape delayed pin for Dan Harrison at 155 pounds for the Simley Spartans?
Well, here he is, Harrison having the Apple Valley boy in that pinhold, and the Apple Valley boy fighting it beautifully, but he just can't do it. He ran out of gas with about 22 seconds to go, and they called the pin, and Dan Harrison of Simley giving that lead now to the Simley team, 22-12.
So Harrison pins Skeffington out of Apple Valley, and we'll see Harrison again tonight in the individual finals at 155 pounds. That was a big win, by the way. Let's take a look now at what's happening at 145 pounds in Class Single A competition, with Canby leading the team score 20-5. Dutch Mahonen, give us an update here as period number 1 ends at 145.
At 145 pounds, it was Mike Kontz of Canby with a dominating 13-0 victory. That's a major decision, which gives Canby 5 more team points to make it 25-5 over Staples. Wrestling for Staples was Dwayne Uthout, who really took a pounding. I have to give the kid credit. He didn't get pinned. He had 2 3-point near falls called on him during the match, but right now with that major decision, it's 25-5. Canby over Staples, moving into the 155-pound weight class.
With 4 weight classes remaining, Dutch, Staples virtually has to pin 3 of their final 4 to win back.
That's right, Paul.
We're going to move back now to Double-A competition at 160.
Apple Valley is impossible for them to catch up.
There you see our score. We're going to go to a replay of a big pin that happened only a moment ago for Canby on Single-A competition. Dutch Mahonen, pick up our tape-delayed telecast.
Here you see Rusty Kockelman at 23-2, a senior. He's really squeezing Joe Mudgett from Staples. And Kockelman, a wrestler eliminated in the semifinals. Here you see him trying to parallel on Mudgett, and he's got him nailed to the mat. It's just a matter of time. He's already got 3 back points, and there you see the pin. Rusty Kockelman, a senior, 23-2 with a pin at 1:31 of the first period. The score now, Canby 31, Staples 5.
And Staples never did get that performance in the early weight classes. There's the score. Canby leading Staples 31-5 in Class A team scoring. We'll return with more wrestling from the St. Paul Civic Center on KTMA. Okay, we're going to switch over now, Vern, to the 180 or 167-pound class in Class A competition. Dutch, what's happening here?
It's 3-2, Keith Jennison over John Hogue of Canby. It's now 5-2. And the team score 31-5 Canby, who is really cleaning house here at the Civic Center this afternoon. Staples really with no chance to come out of this one a victor, Paul. Keith Jennison wrestling well for Staples, but too little, too late, I believe. He's a junior, 14-5. Hogue from Canby, a senior at 18-6.
And Dutch, this would be the first victory for Staples since Jeff Stericker won at 105 pounds.
That's right. There's 14 seconds to go in the third period of action. It's now 5-3. Jennison leading, and we're counting it down. 6 seconds to go, and Staples is going to get a victory at 167. Keith Jennison over John Hogue by a final score of 5-3.
So a regular decision for Keith Jennison out of Staples High School, and that gives his team 3 more points, but Canby still leads 31-8 in team scoring. Back to AA competition now. We're taking a long shot, I guess, of all the fans from Simley. That's a great credit to that community. Look at the blue and white. Here in the heavyweight now, Canby leads 33-10
That's right,
overall.
It's Mike Petrich, Staples, and Ricky Plageman of Canby, but the match isn't going to be conclusive to the end result. It's going to be Canby winning it in Class A decisively. They're ahead now 33-10. No chance for Staples. Canby wrestling the top of their game. You can see why they're number one in the state of Minnesota.
So Canby will be the state champs at Class A competition, Simley the state champs at AA competition. We'll return at 6 o'clock tonight with individual finals as we continue.